all this,
yes,
there are a couple of things that are coming to mind. One is tremendous changes in technology.
Yes.
One part of it. The other part is this thing between cities, urban versus suburb, or even rural. And third is also the nature of the beast of the city. I remember reading something that you said that specialist cities are kind of dead. It's more like the generalist, more inclusive kind of city which is coming up. And particularly you talked about economic history is finally a race between communication and transportation. So can you just walk us through this technology cycles and what really you mean by this race between communication, transportation, and what it means for people in this room?
So I'll separate the two. I'll talk about the cities and maybe about the transport and communications race a little later. Now, this new world that I just described, this world is essentially an urban world. The world already has more than 50% of its population lives in cities, and it's urbanizing very, very fast. Even places like Brazil, which are developing countries, are now 80% urban. India is one of the last unurbanized countries, lesser urbanized countries in the world. China is also more than 50% urban and rapidly urbanizing. But India too is rapidly urbanizing. In fact, the number of India being about 1/3 urban is probably wrong. We are probably more like 40% urban. There are some definitional issues why this is the case. But certainly within our own lifetime, India will be an urban majority country. So this is part of the overall story because as you know, urbanization is one of the best contraceptives. And one of the things that are driving this massive decline in birth rates is rapid urbanization. And so when we think about the world going forward, we have to think about what these cities will be like. Now, it's very difficult to guess this. But one of the things that is driving, if you look at where the growth, at least in the very recent last 10, 20 years has been, it's quite interesting. It has been basically in the very largest cities. So, it has not been Detroit that is growing despite it. We get lots of cheap real estate in Detroit, but it's New York that is becoming even more expensive, but it's still sucking in people. And so the same thing incidentally is happening even in India. You can get a lot of real estate, cheap real estate in small cities, but it's Bombay and Bangalore and Chennai that are sucking in people. It's the larger cities that are sucking in people. Why? Because the driving force of the economics of this world that I described is driven heavily by clustering and randomized interaction between people. You cannot create this randomized interaction of agents, economic agents, in a dispersed environment. So, given the nature of the beast, and given a world where people are continuously having to change jobs, the economic forces are changing, the concentration is very important. And just so that I illustrate it, let's say, for example, let's try and do what we used to do in the past, was to build, and we still try to do, wrongly I think, to build a university town by, like, say, Kharagpur. So how do we build a university town? We take a large chunk of 300 acres and build it somewhere in the boondocks, and we expect the students and faculty to be there. Now, I think that's a complete waste of real estate and resources, because just think about it. You need faculty to move there. Now, the faculty has wives, it has children. Now, just because you are faculty doesn't mean that your wife is going to be. It's not like the old factory town where the husband went to the car factory and the wife sat at home and ironed the clothes. She also has a life. The kids may have a life. So this whole way of thinking about human life has changed. This way we lead life now is totally different. In the course of one day, rather than go through a simple cycle, go to office, come back, or go to factory, come back, we do dozens of things to the course of the day. You may get up in the morning, work, do some meetings. In the middle, you may go and meet a friend. You may zip back. In the middle, you're also fighting with somebody on Twitter. Then you also do some works in the middle. Then after some work, you'll go off to the Swarajya conversations. And then after this, you'll go to dinner, and at late night flight, you might fly to Singapore. So in this environment, the only way you can do this kind of mix and match life is in concentrated urban settings. So one of the things that I said that this works in generalist cities rather than specialist. Now, some specialist cities will still be there, but great cities around the world, if you look, they're all generalist cities. If you take Singapore, I mean, Singapore is great for finance, but it's also good. You can do gambling there. It's great for entertainment. It's also got some great universities. It also has a port, by the way. It's the mix that matters, not one. Whereas, Kharagpur may be a great IIT, but so what?
So that's like a great Indian thali.
Yes, the future is the thali.